Hello, welcome to another episode of Analog Recess. I am Jimmy.
I'm Tommy.
Awesome. Today we are going to be talking about something that Tommy and I talked about for a long time, and we're super excited about this episode, but it is our top 5 movie soundtracks. Let's do it.
Let's go.
All right, yeah, so like we said, we are super excited about this episode. So let's get going.
Let's go.
Tommy, would you like to go first with number 5?
I would. My 5th movie is a no-brainer for me, and that would be the soundtrack to the movie Heavy Metal.
Nice.
My friends and I that I grew up with, when we saw that movie when we were in grade school, the soundtrack was almost it was almost a snapshot of my life in grade school with the music I was listening to. I mean, you have Open Arms by Journey on that soundtrack. You got Don Felder with the song Heavy Metal, Sammy Hagar with the song Heavy Metal, Black Sabbath, Steely Dan.
Nice.
I mean, the soundtrack is all over the board. It's absolutely amazing. So check it out.
Hell yeah. I'm gonna have to rewatch that movie. It's been a while. My number 5, so I had it down to about 15, and then I had to dwindle it down to 5.
Sure.
So this is always a tough situation here, but my number 5, I'm going Natural Born Killers.
Dude, L7's in that. Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Loved it.
L7.
I love the soundtrack better than I love the movie. How about that?
Yeah?
Okay, yeah. I'm not a fan of the movie.
I like the movie.
We'll talk about that on another episode.
We are. Yeah. But yeah, did you know, though, it was curated by Trent Reznor?
I did. Yeah. I did know that, yes.
Oliver Stone
Yep.
wanted Trent Reznor to kind of like
produce it. Yeah. Soundtrack. Right.
So he was the executive producer on that. There was Dr. Dre was on there,
Yep.
9 Inch Nails, obviously.
Yep.
Rage Against the Machine.
Mm-hmm.
We had L7, as Tommy mentioned.
Yep.
Marilyn Manson was on there.
Yep.
But my 2 favorite off there, obviously, one of them was Cowboy Junkie, Sweet Jane. Such a good,
that's
good
right.
song.
That was on there.
Such a good song.
Such a good song. Love it.
We talked about it on a
We
previous
did.
episode.
We did.
And then my man Leonard Cohen, whose voice is just
Haunting.
awesome.
It is. It is cool. Yeah.
You can go through just a rabbit hole on that guy.
For sure.
Maybe we'll do an episode in the future for that.
Yep.
Also, Trent Reznor wanted a Snoop Dogg song to be on, but Warner Brothers ixnayed that because he was on trial for murder at the time.
Oh, right. Okay.
Nice little tidbit there.
Indeed.
That was my number 5. Tommy, what about your number 4?
Number 4, I am going to go with Some Kind of Wonderful, a John Hughes movie.
Nice.
Really, once again, and a lot of these that I'm picking right now are definitely snapshots of my life as I'm getting older, so grade school, high school. This was definitely high school. Out of all the John Hughes movies, too, on another topic, it's one of my all-time favorite John Hughes movies. It's great. Eric Stoltz and Leah Thompson was just a great movie. And the soundtrack with, Jesus and Mary Chain, and some really deep-cut, alternative kind of cuts, but it's a wonderful soundtrack. I highly recommend everyone check it out.
Nice.
Yeah.
My number 4, Tommy's going to give me crap, probably a lot of my buddies are too, but this movie just has a lot of good, like, old school, like, Motown songs to it. That's why I enjoyed it. I didn't enjoy, like, the obvious, throw a line out there songs, but Dirty Dancing for me was a good one.
Eyes.
That's not one of them. No, like none of the main ones. I like the B side of like Be My Little Baby by the Ronettes. That's a classic
Okay,
song.
all right.
Hey Baby by Bruce. In the Still of the Night by the Five Satans.
Okay.
And These Arms of Mine by Otis Redding.
It is a good sound. Those are good tunes.
And then Will You Still Love Me Tomorrow by the Shirelles.
Great tune.
Just, a lot of old school stuff.
Right.
So, and I was, 10 years old maybe when it came out. Not that song either. I knew I'd be getting crap of this. But I don't know. Something about those songs. I think it.
I get it.
Yeah.
I get it.
But that was my number 4.
Nice.
Number 3?
Number Trace. Risky Business.
Nice.
Yeah, Risky Business. It's far better than just like old time rock and roll. That song is on the soundtrack, by the way, the Bob Seger tune. Yeah, that is on the soundtrack. But you've got Jeff Beck with an instrumental killer guitar, nighttime instrumental guitar tune called The Pump. You've got, who else? You got Muddy Waters doing Mannish Boy. You've got Tangerine Dream.
Love Tangerine.
The kings of killer 80 movie soundtrack. And it's not even close.
Yeah.
Like, if you haven't heard Tangerine Dream, the synth, deep, chill out, synth, space rock, like not even rock, just dreamy music. It's the soundtrack's amazing.
Oh, yeah.
I played the vinyl so much, I had to get another piece of vinyl, like in high school. I played just overplayed it, and just the vinyl wore out, and I had to buy another one. Yeah, so risky business for sure.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
My number 3, this movie came out in 1993. It was Richard Linklater. It's such a good movie, but I got Dazed and Confused.
Oh, that is a good one.
Yeah. You got Leonard Skinner's on there. You got Aerosmith.
Yeah.
War with Lowrider.
Yep.
Black Sabbath, Paranoid.
Sure.
Foghat. And then Ted Nugent's
Stranglehold.
Stranglehold. Such an awesome freaking song.
It is good.
And that kind of just made it all round out. Just an awesome soundtrack. So
Yeah.
I had to go with that with my number 3.
That's a good one.
Yeah. Number 2?
I'm up.
Yeah.
Oh shit.
Number 2.
Is it Dose?
Yeah.
That was 3. Once again, kind of hearkening back. We're doing Dose, by the way, for me. Dose. The Crow soundtrack.
It's a good one.
The Crow soundtrack is what brought me into it. Actually, I remember like it was yesterday, because my buddies and I were already Brandon Lee fans. So Brandon Lee had already done a few movies, and we liked him. Mm-hmm. So, and this is when my roommates and I, we were big time into like karate, Steven Seagal, like Jean-Claude Van Damme, any action movie that was back, because this is 80s, late 80s, and maybe early 90s. It was early, because you had some, it was early 90s, I take that back. But on that soundtrack, on top of Stone Temple Pilots, Alice in Chains, but the band that was on there was a local, not a local, but an Arizona band called Machines of Loving Grace, and they had one they had one sound. It's the best song on the album, called Golgotha, and oh my God, that song! They used it in the trailer too for the movie The Crow. That's how good the song is. So it was that song they used in the trailer.
It's an awesome name for a song too.
Golgotha? Well, you know what it is, right? That's where they crucified Jesus. The hill was called Golgotha. Not called, it was the hill where they had the crucifixion of Jesus. So, yeah, so pretty, I mean, in the song, who else is on it? I mean, the soundtrack is absolutely amazing. Kind of that, it captures the 90s, that early 90s sound perfectly. Mm-hmm. Like you had some grunge bands on there, no glam bands. It was all like more moody, darker type music, but it was fantastic. Great soundtrack, killer.
Hell yeah. So my number 2. So with my last 2, I kind of went out, a little left field here. These 2 movies are not really well known, but the soundtracks are completely incredible. And for the most part, on each one of these, there's basically one main person that does almost the whole soundtrack. So for number 2 for me, the movie called The Secret Life of Walter Mitty. I don't know if you've ever seen that with Ben Stiller.
I never saw it, but my friends and family that did see it loved it, recommended it to me. That's really with Ben Stiller. Yeah. More serious role.
Yep. Yeah, and it was directed by Ben Stiller.
Okay.
But it just had an incredible soundtrack. Arcade Fire was on there, David Bowie, Monsters and Men, but I think 5 or 6 of the rest of the songs on that soundtrack were by Jose Gonzalez, who is like kind of like a folk singer. Mm-hmm. He's from Argentina, but his voice is so very calm and just it's a beautiful voice.
I'll check out.
But yeah, it's a great soundtrack. Check out the movie if you can. It's just, I don't know, it's like a feel good story. It kind of makes you like feel good about life and stuff like that.
Right.
So that was my number 2. Number 1.
You know what? It's a no-brainer. CDs had just hit the scene, and this is late 80s. And Peter Gabriel did the entire, you just mentioned, perfect segue for me. You mentioned, hey, you appreciate the artist that did the soundtrack, like, performed some. And for me, it's the soundtrack to the movie Last Temptation of Christ. Not the, what was
Mel Gibson.
Not the Mel Gibson one. Yeah. This is This is The Last Temptation of Christ, directed by Scorsese, with William Dafoe as Jesus and Harvey Keitel as Judas.
Wow.
David Bowie is the Pontius Pilate. Just to put things, it's a 3-hour, it was a book that was written in the early 60s. Point being, it's a very unique movie. The soundtrack that went along with it was completely done by Peter Gabriel and world musicians. So I would call it more of a world soundtrack. But man, there's some good stuff on there, man. It is an amazing compilation of Peter Gabriel working with some musicians from Middle Eastern countries and stuff. So It has that flair. It is absolutely incredible. I highly just put it on with some headphones too. It's one of those type of soundtracks, and just listen to it nonstop, because it's one of those soundtracks where the songs will bleed into the next song.
Oh, nice.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that's kind of it's one of that's, and it was in the early days of CDs. So we all threw on our headphones if we had them or whatever, and to play this, and we had smoke weed too in a dorm room, that sort of thing. It's that type of music. So yeah.
Nice. Yeah, I've never seen. I'm gonna have to check the movie out. Not let alone
It's
the soundtrack.
incredible. Yeah. Deborah Winger is Mary of Magdalene.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah, just to give you just a broad strokes
That's
of the
a
cast.
good cast, for sure.
Henry Dean Stanton is Saul.
Wow.
And then, so it's like this A-list cast of this artistic movie directed by Scorsese, based on a book of What If Jesus Had Lived.
Wow.
So fascinating, good stuff. One of my all-time favorite movies too. We'll talk about that down the road.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, good stuff. All right, what you got? Where are we at?
All right, so my number one.
Lay it on me, man.
This movie came out in 2007. It's based off of a true fact, true story. It is Into the Wild. It's directed by Sean Penn. It's about that the kid Christopher McCandless, who basically left all his money and his family.
Went up to Alaska,
ended up
ate poison seeds from flowers,
Yeah.
went crazy.
some berries.
It was also,
But the
sad
book-
story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he had an incredible journey, and the movie is really such a good movie. Emil Hirsch plays the main character, and
I watched a
it was
documentary
really
on that
well.
guy before that movie. Yeah, interesting.
Good movie. But the soundtrack was pretty much all done by Eddie Vedder. Sean Penn got with Eddie Vedder and said, "Hey, I'm going to give you all the freedom you want, but the biggest thing is going to be trust." And Eddie Vedder just knocked it out of the park. Did all the songs. He wrote all of them with the exception of 2 he co-wrote with somebody else. Well, actually one of them was a cover, but most of the songs Eddie played a mandolin. So they have that little bit of like a twingier sound to it.
Yeah.
But there's the song "Society," "Hard Sun," "Setting Forth," "Far
Hard
Behind."
Sun. Well,
Yeah.
first of all, Hard Sun's not.
It's a cover.
It is a cover.
Yeah,
by,
that's the one.
That's the one. So that song is one of my all-time favorite tunes, and I loved it when it first came out. And the band was called Indio.
Yeah.
Fucking great song.
Right?
Oh,
Yeah.
great song.
that
And by the way,
soundtrack.
Eddie Vedder sings it in a good way. He sings it very similar to the original, and I appreciate that.
Nice.
Like, don't make it your own.
Right.
Like the first one's really good, so just add to it.
Yeah.
So he did a great job.
Oh yeah, for sure. They won a Golden Globe with that soundtrack and had a lot of Grammy nominations. So
Yeah.
just an all-around good soundtrack. I had to pick that as my number one because, anytime I go camping or anything like that, I love putting that soundtrack on just because
I get
it's
it.
so like a peaceful
Outside type
it's
music.
very much when you're in nature.
get it.
That kind of music just kind of really
Absolutely. Right.
So that was my top 5 and Tommy's top 5, but we gotta throw in some honorable mentions. Why not, right?
Yeah.
So one of my honorable mentions I had was Pulp Fiction.
Oh,
It's a good soundtrack.
it is a great soundtrack.
Quentin always has really good ones.
So is Reservoir Dogs.
Yep, exactly. Reservoir Dogs is on there.
Especially
for sure.
when they yank out, they put parts of the movie spoken word between the songs.
Yeah.
From the movie.
Oh yeah, excerpts or whatever.
Yeah.
Boogie Nights was another good one,
So good.
right?
Yeah.
The Wedding Singer was
Yeah.
a good one.
Yeah.
It had a lot of those 80s,
Yep.
like...
Indeed.
What's that, like, European, like, The Cure and that kind of, like... What's that sound?
New Wave.
New Wave. Yeah, it had a lot of new wave on there. Singles was another.
That was my honorable mention.
Yeah, okay.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
That's a great soundtrack.
Yeah. That almost made my top 5.
That's a shame we didn't mention Citizen Dick.
Yeah.
Citizen Dick should have been on our list.
Yeah,
for sure.
Right. I'll put a little excerpt in here. Slide that in there.
Citizen Dick.
The Garden State had a pretty good soundtrack.
That was a good one.
Juno.
Yeah.
I liked The Beach. I don't know if you remember that with Leonardo DiCaprio.
That one. So those are your honorable mentions.
Yeah.
The Beach. That's a good segue into mine. So The Beach it captures the musical journey of the early 2000s perfectly. Mm-hmm. And so that has Massive Attack, Hooverphonic, Great Expectations. Have you ever seen that movie? Mm-hmm. The new version. That came out in early 2000 with Robert De Niro. Yep. That
was a good one.
That soundtrack too is very similar to The Beach. I'm gonna go with Matrix. I'm gonna go with Fight Club. I'm gonna go with, how about the Blade soundtrack? The first movie Blade.
See, I never saw Blade.
What?
Yeah. I was never a big vampire.
This is me genuinely being serious. The first Blade.
Yeah, I never got into vampires, so.
Dude!
I'll check it out.
Oh my God, we're gonna have to do an episode just on like the good Marvel movies. How about that?
It's Marvel?
Well, Blade's a vampire killer. He was the first Marvel.
Huh.
Not the first Marvel. I didn't mean he's the first. It's the first successful Marvel movie.
I'm gonna have to check that out.
Well, how about
Wesley Pipes?
Wesley Pipes. He's ripped in these, man. He looks great.
He's like
that guy. It was funny. My buddies and I were huge Wesley Snipes fans. Oh yeah,
I liked him in
Willie Mays Hayes. Come on, man.
I love Major League.
It was movie sound. That's a good movie soundtrack. Honorable mention. Because it had Wild Thing by X. Mm-hmm. No, the song Wild Thing by X. Yeah, that was a good movie soundtrack.
That is funny. Can you name this whole sidetrack? Can you name 3 movies that Woody Harrelson and Wesley Snipes were in together?
Oh yeah, they've been in like 4 or 5. Yeah, so White Man Can't Jump, Train Robbery,
Money Train,
and then Goldie Hawn.
Yep.
In Wildcats.
Yeah, that was, I think, their first collaboration.
Seriously? Did you really try to step up to me with fucking 80s trivia?
Not a lot of people know that.
Oh, dude, it's us, man. Come on. Let's go. So if you got anything, if you want to try to stump us in the comic section, go for it, man.
Right.
You'll be hard pressed to nail us on anything, pop culture. So anyway.
Awesome. So that was our top 5 movie soundtracks.
It was.
You can't have a good movie soundtrack without music. And
Gotta
you
have
can't
some
have
tunes.
music without a guitar. So Tommy, what did we got here today?
Man, we have a guitar. I've said this before on a few guitars we talked about already, but this one in particular, when I was in high school, freshman, Eddie Van Halen had just switched over to, he was his first endorsement. So there was a big deal, like in high school. So Eddie Van Halen's going to be endorsed by a guitar company. And the first endorsement he chose, just so we're clear. Everybody wanted Eddie Van Halen. Kramer, though, won the battle, and this is called the 84. And it is based on Eddie Van Halen's Kramer 1984 guitar they used on Diver Down, 1984, when Sammy Hagar joined too. So he used this for 4 or 5 albums, and he loved this guitar. He eventually ended up naming it 5150 after his recording studio. But man, oh man, I have not had this much fun playing this Kramer through this Marshall Cruise Control Modified amplifier. So we've got Alder Body, Floyd Rose 1000 floating, Seymour Duncan JB pickup, Maple Neck, built for speed. That's it. A lot of people say, well, it's a one-trick pony. Yeah, but it does that one trick really, 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 really well. So there's a video I posted on Instagram about a week or so ago, right? Yeah. So me doing a little ditty of, God, I can't remember the song I was playing.
Dance the Night Away?
Thank you. little ditty. I did Dance the Night Away. You know, obviously not as good as good old Senor Van Halen, but man, I do love playing this guitar. Oh, another shout out. Thank you, our coworker Katrina, who saw Dead & Co. With John Mayer at the Sphere in Las Vegas, and she was so kind enough to bring me, she knows I'm a big Dead Co. / Mayer fan, and she brought me this killer cool tie-dye shirt. So I'm a big fan of tie-dye. I know it's kind of weird, like, well, I meet a lot of people. A lot of people hate tie-dye.
I don't mind it.
I love it. I'd wear it every day if I could. I loved it as a little kid. You know, maybe it's because I'm, you know, born in '68. So
awesome. Thank you, Tommy, for that educational piece.
You're welcome.
Well, thank you everyone for joining us for another episode.
Thanks, everybody.
I think this is episode 8. So
Jesus.
Yeah, I know we're pumping through. We're getting there.
Go.
It's going to be almost a year. So it's been fun. I've had a lot of pleasure doing it. I know Tommy,
it was about a year ago we talked about this.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Cool stuff.
It's so much fun.
It is fun. We have a good time doing it.
Yeah, exactly. Please subscribe, like, hit that bell, leave some comments, and until next time,
go shrimp. Yes!